Hello and welcome to Dominion show. My name is Freeman Singirankabo, and thank you for joining us for our program, today. Those of you joining us live, especially from social media, welcome. Be sure to share our programs, subscribe and follow. You may ask why. We want you to be able to get involved in our programs here at Dominion show. And make sure that anything that you would like to share to contribute to these very important themes of programs or issues that we care so deeply on our heart, you have a chance to do that. I also want to let you know that on this show, on Dominion show, we speak boldly, we speak truthfully, and we ask no apologies to anyone, especially for these issues relevant to our lives. It is in this spirit that everything we share, we talk to you about, we discuss here, it's all in the spirit of truth, love, and trust. And these are the benchmarks by which we would love for you to measure both the integrity and the content that we are providing you. And we want to assure you that anytime you find something of which doesn't add any value to you, please be sure to leave us a note or message and let you know that, hey, you know what, I didn't particularly like this discussion or that program, so that we may have an opportunity to also improve. I also welcome all of you to please give us a hand. Support our programs, especially those of you who found it as an added value to what you are doing in your lives, because we intend to keep on doing it on behalf of our brothers and sisters all over the world, especially Africans, because this particular show, Dominion, focuses on African ways of lives of our brothers and sisters and African descendants. With that in mind, before we get right into our theme of today, I know that most of you do not know what this show is about. This is a brand new show that we just started, and I want to just take a minute and let you know what Dominion show is. But also ask that all of you who want to reach out to us, who want to get in touch with all of us here, or those on the field, you have an opportunity to do so, because we have so much work to do in this 2022, and we want you to be a part of that in any way, shape, and form and capacity. And with that in mind, I want to welcome you and ask all of you to please visit our website, which is www.afridominion.com. www.afridominion.com. And if you have any comment, or if you want to leave us a note, be sure to use our email, which is info@afridominion.com. info@afridominion.com. So, what is Dominion show? Or better yet, what is Dominion? Dominion, it's an idea that inspires, encourages, also advocates for a complete and total take back, or a complete dominion of Africa, one country at a time, by its sons, daughters, and African descendants, all in the interest of African people primarily, and then the rest of the world afterwards. This idea we care so deeply about. We want to be able to take back our leadership of the entire continent, one country at a time, one village at a time, even one family at a time. We want to take back the responsibility of our daily to-day affairs without any outsider interference, especially when these interferences are not in the very best interest of Africans in general or different countries. So we want to be able to bring it to the table truthfully, boldly, and without any apologies. Any issues, concerns, and solutions, we want to bring it all to the table so you can have an opportunity to have a saying in it. So this is what we do as far as African Dominion, and the show itself is going to be encouraging, is going to be inspiring, and it's going to be advocating for these very issues we talk about on a daily basis. And with that in mind, we have so many things to talk about, so many initiatives to do, to take part in, so many things that we need to do as Africans. But they all lead back to Africa Dominion, the leadership of entire Africa by the Africans themselves and the African descendants. We believe that if you are a child of a house, of a family, you know your affairs best than an outsider who doesn't even know you, than an outsider who can actually have a soundbite of your crisis for 2 minutes or 3 minutes on any of these mass media networks, and then you pretend to become an expert at it. So we want to make sure that we put the responsibilities where those responsibilities should be in the first place. Nothing wrong with getting some support with being helped, but we want those who should be taking care of their own issues primarily, you take the drive of these issues. So we want you to be a part of it, sons, daughters, and African descendants, wherever you are. Though you may not necessarily be in your countries for some of you, wherever you may be, these issues will not go away just because you're no longer back at your home or in your whatever village that you may be coming from. But in particular, if you are in the West, in the United States, in any other continent outside of outside of Africa, we want to encourage you to get involved. Every single one of us, you are needed, you are required in order for the solutions that we need to our very problems can be attained, can be realized. So do not discount yourself as a valueless individual. Even if you may think yourself as a nobody or as an individual who cannot contribute, who cannot make change to your homeland, to your country, to the continent of Africa. So we're changing that today. We're changing that in this year 2022. So those of you who want to learn more, I encourage you to check us out on freedominion.com. Send us an email. Be sure to give us a call. We have our contacts there. So be sure to stop by and check us out. But in particular, those of you who actually support initiatives, organization, government, non-government organization, even some governments who are actually in good faith supporting good initiatives relevant within the best interest of Africans in particular. We would love to connect with you wherever you may be. So there is no shame in helping, but we want you to be understanding when we say that we want to be able to define our own issues. We want to be able to find the solutions first. Those solutions in the very best interest of our own people first, our own families, and then all of you can be able to take care of as well. Last week I was discussing that Africa is among the wealthiest continent on planet Earth. Yet most of the African people, African countries are extremely poor. Take cases of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, one of the wealthiest countries on the continent of Africa. However, when you see the situation on an average Congolese person, on an average person within the country, the majority have had deplorable conditions, difficult lives. How can you explain that a wealthiest land with the most natural resources you may not be able to find anywhere else around the planet, its people are among the poorest, its people are among the victims of all kinds of crimes and inhumane conditions, but all of us, we're benefiting from their resources. So we want to put an end to that. We want to be able to prioritize all of this based on where you are as a person, as a community, as a country. So if you'd like any of that, we want you to be a part of it. And this is not a cliche, right? Where you say, oh, child, you must be among the dreamers. Nothing can be done because Africans are just corrupt. We have the worst government that we can ever have in Africa. And there are so many reasons, so many excuses. In this year, 2022, we are saying enough with the excuse. No matter how big the elephant, as long as you're a human being, you can eat that elephant. How do you slice a huge elephant in a such way that it's manageable in your mouth? So we need to get together. We need to figure out the solutions best suited for our own situations, without having to attribute it back to those who has or who have had a hand in it. Now, don't get it twisted. There are those who are to be blamed. But right now, we want to be able to put the blames on the side and actually get to work. Have some deliverables. Have some really action plans. Measurable action plans that we can say, we have decided to do this, and these are the steps, this is what we get ready to do. So that we can have each and every one of you who claims that you are working on behalf of your brothers and sisters in Africa, or on behalf of your African descendants. We want to be able to check you the same way we would like to be checked as well. We want to be transparent of all these things we're doing. We want to be able to destroy, remove, get rid of the things of which are not working on our behalf and on behalf of our families and countries. This is what we are doing here on Afri Dominion Show. Inspiring, advocating, and encouraging leadership change, lifestyle change of African people, one country at a time, and then the rest of the world. So with that in mind, we have themes that we focus on every day of the week. Our broadcast goes from Mondays through Friday. On Mondays, we talk about the eradication of refugees and stateless person, or persons, I may add. Refugees is one of the worst situations humankind can actually have on planet Earth. In particular, we have so many African refugees on the continent of Africa, but also outside of Africa. We want to be able to say, sons and daughters of Africa, descendants of Africans, come back home. Let's work together and end issues with refugees and stateless persons. But you cannot leave this work to the United Nations alone, or African Union alone. You must be able to be involved, get involved as families, as communities, because these are the same issue, the very issues actually that are worrisome to you and your families. How long has the United States been in existence? How long has the United Nations been in existence? How long has all these members with such capacity to eradicate most of the issues we have on this world, but they do not do so because it is not in their very best interest? The United Nations has one of the agencies in charge of refugees worldwide. What is their track record? If they are not adding any value, if they are not putting, being in added value, being a solution to actually getting everybody back home, getting everybody right where they need to be, besides of reacting to the situation of refugees at hand, we want to be able to have a permanent solution. So on Mondays, we talk about that. We find those issues where they are, and we also get after the recommendation, or we come up with the recommendation by you, sons and daughters, descendants of Africans. On Tuesday, we talk about the Constitution, law, and policy review and implementation. Again, Africa has one of the most well-written constitutions globally. But those constitutions, those laws and policies, they are as good as you can imagine on piece of paper only, most of them. So what good is writing a piece of legislature if it is not going to be implemented? What type of interest are you actually advocating or looking for on behalf of the people? So we want to be able to review all these, make changes where necessary, get rid of what doesn't work, and implement or come up with something that works on your behalf in the interest of you first, Africans, and then the outsiders, they come last. That's just real talk. There's no other way we can put it. On Wednesdays, we have testimonies, and we talk about our history as African people, but also individual in various countries that you may be from. We want you to be able to take charge of your testimony. Be the one narrating your testimony. Be the one speaking your own testimony. Because we know you are not just going to cherry pick your own testimony, your own history. We have come to accept in those years, in those yesteryears, that history is and always has been written by a government that is in power. So can you imagine if your government keeps on changing every 4 to 8 years, and then I come in and I scrap everything and I put on something else new? How are we gonna work? How are we going to make any progress if I keep on just destroying everything, uprooting everything that's already there, and then put my own stuff, put my own history, the one that actually glamorizes my work or glamorizes my work? We want to be able to collect our whole entire African history, your country history, the whole entire history, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all in one. And use it as a reminder, use it as a reference point to who you are as a person, where you just came from, where you are today, and where we're going tomorrow. So on Wednesdays, that's what we do. By all means, welcome. On Thursday, we talk about the spirit of dominion. What is the spirit of dominion? That's the leadership we're talking about. We dive deeper into the government's leadership, ruling, controlling, mastery of yourself, discipline of yourself as a person, as families, as a community, but also on a country level. We're talking about us. We're not talking about someone else doing it on our behalf. We're talking about us and taking action. On Fridays, we talk about current events and taking action. Now, these current events are not just like the sound bites that you find on televisions, on radio stations, or social media. It could be some of that, but most of it is some of the things that would never make it because it's not sexy to make it on these front line or from pages of magazine or mainstream media. So we want you to be able to drive what comes on Fridays here on Afri Dominion. The issues of which are pressing the most to you, we want you to be able to bring forth and have an opportunity to discuss it with brothers and sisters all over the world. And let everyone, pitch in and have a saying in them. Because we believe that all of us collectively, we have every single solution of every problem that we have at hand right now in 2022. And with that in mind, be sure to tune in every day, Mondays through Friday, between 12 o'clock to 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, meaning Washington, D.C. time. We welcome all of you. We have Zoom that's open. Come in and have your saying, and don't be shy. We know that most of you aren't able to publicly have a saying or to speak publicly. But we want to be able to encourage each and every one of you. Learn how to speak. All of us will start from somewhere. None of us was born speaking publicly. But you've got to be able to step up and actually speak on your own behalf, on behalf of your family, on behalf of your community, and on behalf of your country. Boldly, frankly, and with no apologies. So with that in mind, let's jump right into our theme and our focus of today. Today's conversation, we want to talk about two things. We want to go back and talk about the issues with African refugees, since that's our theme for today. And my question to you is, can you trade your lifestyle now with a refugee or a stateless person. I want to ask you again, can you trade your lifestyle, the life you're living right now, especially those of us in these great states of United States, in Europe, in Canada, any one of these so-called advanced nations, if you live there and you're established, even if you're struggling, can you actually be bold and trade your lifestyle that you have right now with a refugee or a stateless person? Why am I asking this? We get to that. Secondly, speaking of the stateless person, we have a case of 8 stateless Rwandans who have been transferred to Niger and are just being bounced around the same way you bounce the ball. And we want to be able to talk about that briefly, and we want you to have a saying in it. So going back to trading places with a refugee. We've been digging this whole week since we started this theme last week. In this year 2022, we have 365 days. And out of these 365 days, we have just used 10 of them, 10 days. And so one of the driving forces we have right now, we want to have a year of action plan, action, and action. So in this year 2022, what is your role in eradicating refugee and stateless persons condition in Africa? Be it you live in Africa or outside of Africa, what is your role, especially if you are a son, a daughter, or an African descendant? Do you have it in your heart in this 2022 to participate in any of the programs that are being set up, all in the interest of eradicating, uprooting refugees issues, refugees situation in Africa? Stateless person conditions in Africa. I took a peek at the United Nations UN High Commission for Refugees. They've been working, they've been busy for many, many years. They set up camps for refugees. They provide amazing programs, amazing services to those refugees. But are they actually going to the bottom of the issue? Why are these people, why are these brothers and sisters becoming refugees to begin with? Addressing the wound at hand, but not addressing the cause of the wound. We are so grateful of church organizations, non-government organizations helping out our brothers and sisters all over Africa who have found themselves in these deplorable conditions of refugees. I once was a refugee too, more than one time. In Rwanda, for those of you, we have had, we still have refugees problem even today, but I have had a share of refugee lifestyle, refugee condition, refugee living condition as well, as a kid. It is one of the worst kind of living condition that you can imagine on planet Earth. But again, when you've never been in such a situation, when you just watch it for 30 seconds, for 1 minute, for 2 minutes on mainstream media, it's just like a soap opera. You have no single clue what some of these families are going through. The conditions they live in, some of which we can't even discuss here. The crimes that they endure, the injustices that they endure, all because someone has actually forced them out of their own homeland, of their own countries, of their own villages, out of their property or properties. This is what's happening today in 2022. The United Nations, the African Union, a lot of these government-based institutions are fully aware of it. Mind you, these are the very government causing these wars, causing these deplorable conditions. But they blame one another for what's happening, but none of them are taking responsibilities to fully eradicate refugees and stateless person conditions all over Africa. Now, I am not saying that the rest of the world is clean. We've been focusing on Africa because Africa itself has 1.3 or 1.4 billion people today, and a good share of them are refugees internally, meaning within Africa itself. And some of them have made it outside of Africa. On a continent as wealthy as Africa, why should you have a condition of being internally displaced individuals, families, communities? For years, for decades, with no solutions. If you take power and you have no agenda, you have no action plan in resolving a situation of refugees in your own country, as situations of stateless persons in your country, why should you go and speak on behalf of those people? This is why here at Africa Dominion we say now, we the people, the actual true we the people, we need to take actions. If the very institutions that are in place, sometimes who put themselves in place as dictators, or as those who take by force leadership, we want to be able to make changes. We want to be able to take matters in our own hands, resolve these issues in the ways that we see fit for our own interest. We speak with so many refugees, so many African refugees, to be specific, in the most deplorable condition, and sometimes you are just left helpless. Because when you see what they need and when you see the conditions that they're living in today, you imagine if they are even human beings. There is absolutely no discrimination, no discrimination. It could be a child who is just born to someone who's 80, 90, all living like animals. And we call ourselves humankind. We call ourselves the most advanced race on planet, the most benevolent people around the globe. Just because these deplorable conditions are not in your neighborhood, are not in your city, are not in your country to some of you, that doesn't mean that they're not existing somewhere outside of Africa. And one of the things that today we want to be able to explicitly communicate with you, our sons, daughters, and African descendants in particular, and those of you who actually want to give us a hand. We want to know where are all our brothers and sisters who have turned into refugees, who have been turned into refugees. Wherever you are, be it in Africa or outside of Africa, we want to know where you are. We want to be able to say, okay, Johnny, you're here as a refugee from this country and that country. What's your situation? How did you get there? We want to be able to bring it all on one table and have a discussion, have an action plan, have in actual ways we can end it. We are going to do it. We are guaranteeing you that we are going to do it. The question is, can you, son, daughter, or African descendant, even friends of Africa, can you genuinely come and take part of it? All in the interest of African people primarily, instead of your personal or organizational corporate interest first. If you find yourself having that heart, that conviction within you, please reach us out. Reach us out at info@afridominion.com. or go to our website, www.afridominion.com, and just get our contacts. Because we know this is an endeavor that's going to take so much resources, so much willingness, so much heart. And each and every one of you, we welcome to be a part of it. All Africans who are refugees, who are stateless persons, we want to know you. We want to know where you are. We want to know your situation. Some of you might be like, no, I am in this way because I am fleeing. I'm running away from someone who want to take my life, who want to take the life of my family members. There's so many reasons why we are in these conditions. We want to be able to take ownership of the whole entire situation as is, as discreet as it can be, and find solutions for these situations that we have as Africans. You may ask, why are you bothering, son? There are governments in charge of these. Take a scorecard of what the governments are doing. These governments are looking in the best interest of other governments, not the people themselves, not you as a stateless person, not you as a refugee. So are you not as valued as another citizen in your own country? Are you not as important as another colleague, another citizen in your own very country, or even the country that you are in? Are you valued less? How can you stand living as a refugee in a little camp, in a little shelter, for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years? Receiving a plate of beans and porridge every day by any of these so-called benevolent organizations. And you are actually okay with such lifestyles. What happens to your royalty, your gifts, the very gifts hidden within you? What happens to your desires, your want, your needs in life, your dreams in life? Why have you settled? Why have you settled in those conditions? So we want to interrupt your living lifestyle as a refugee and as a stateless person. But you must want to have those changes yourselves. We want to extend arms. We want to extend our heart. We want to extend the support. We want to end it. But the question, do you also want to end it? You don't need to know how. Do you have a desire in your heart to change the conditions that you are living in today? That's the questions we're placing on your lap. And that's the questions that we want you to have a frank and honest response to. We are ready, as sons, daughters, and African descendants, to do something about it. And we are no longer going to wait for governments to take care of that. We are no longer going to wait for private corporation to take care of that. We are no longer going to wait for different stakeholders who are looking after their own interests primarily before the interests of these refugees, these stateless persons. We want the primary stakeholders to be sitting on the table of solutions. We want you to be able to point out your own solution to your own problem. But you must make time for that. You must have the priority for that in your life. As an individual, as a family, as a community, even as a nation. I dare say as also the entire Africa continent. We are so sick and tired of politics. Politicians, politics. These people who happen to be our brothers and sisters. We can't lie. It is us who are doing it. They've chosen to look the interest of others, outsiders, instead of our own interest. And we, in turn, have gone silent. We no longer speak up. We no longer advocate. We no longer make our voice heard for the issues that we see as issues that are deplorable in our lives, issues that we cannot live with, issues of which are demeaning or taking out or taken off or taken away. Our Ubuntu, our humanity. We're slowly embracing savagery, and we still call ourselves the most advanced races on planet. We got to be able to change that, sons, daughters, brothers and sisters. And in this year, 2022, we say we are going to do our own part as sons, daughters, and African descendants. And we extending our hand to you all to be a part of it. I speak to some of the stateless persons from various countries. And when you hear how their lives has become the worst kind of life anyone can wish for a loved one, it is so crazy. It is beyond what you can conceive in your own head. Most of these stateless persons, not only they are undocumented, but they cannot even call out for help because they're either hiding against someone or an organization that seeks to destroy their lives. And these organizations, they live very well, very large in our countries, in Africa, outside of Africa. And all of us, we see this taking place day in and day out, and we're very silent about it, especially because it's not happening to my brother, my sister, my individual, my main family member, or my individuals, or my primary family members. I could care less. You can care less. Let's take back the heart of your own families, of your own communities, of nations. Extend it to those who have no relation with you whatsoever, especially a blood relation. Just because someone is having a fire and they could be a mile away from you, that fire can very well find itself right next to you and then in your own house. If you don't do something about it as a people, as a community, as families, even you individually, what happens when that fire comes in your own house? What happens when what you used to call someone else's issue becomes your own very issue? And you are not capable to squash that fire yourself. What happens? What happens? This is what's happening today. A stateless person or persons, most of who have been living deplorable conditions for years. They have learned how to hide, how to live like animals. They steal. They do so many heinous crimes just to survive. And that's the life they know. And most of who cannot imagine living a decent life for just one day. For one day. Can we help these brothers and sisters? Can we help them? I believe we can. I know we can. You just got to have a heart for it. You just got to have a time for it. You just have to have a priority for it. So in this year, we have 355 days remaining. All of you who are listening, all of you who are watching, all of you who will be watching and listening in the future, what is your plan in helping out, eradicating refugees and stateless persons' conditions of Africans? What is your plan? What can you do? What can you commit to do? Please reach out to us and let us know and be accountable. We only have 355 days remaining in 2022. We would love to give you a report. We are going to give you a report of some of the things we were able to do on that very last day, December 31st, 2022. God willing, we are going to let you know what we have been doing, what we have done. And we want to be able to say thank you for taking a part in being a solution rather than a bystander, rather than a careless person who don't care. So this is a call to all of you, sons, daughters, African descendants, and friends of Africa. We want your help. We need your help. But be aware that just because we seeking out your help doesn't mean that this is an opportunity for you to set up an agenda in your own interest. We want to be able to help our own people. And we're saying, if you believe that we deserve to live a good life, help us out. The same way you're living a good life. This country, the United States, it's one of the richest countries. I have never heard of an American refugee. There may be some, but I've never heard of any American refugees on planet Earth. Those who don't particularly want to live in the United States, they actually relocate. They plan and relocate outside of the United States. How is it that the United States doesn't have refugees? It takes refugees. If it's okay for an American citizen not to be a refugee, why is it okay for another country to have refugees? Why is it okay for them to take in refugees instead of helping eradicate the cause of being a refugee? We're supposed to be human beings, humankind, one person on this planet Earth, one family. But we have so much selfishness amongst ourselves that the issues of somebody else are no longer ours. The issues of other countries are no longer ours. However, the most interesting, the most shocking, and the most, it's one of those things you say, wow. Every single one of these so-called developed countries is taking resources from Africa, is taking resources from most of these countries of which have refugees. They are involved in wars, causing refugees in various countries within Africa. Can we talk real? Can we be real? Can we be frank? Can we be bold? Can we be truthful? Be it the United States, be it UK, be it France, be it Germany, be it China, being Russia, being Australians. The most advanced countries on planet Earth are the same countries fueling wars in Africa. Fueling wars in Africa. You cause a war, you also bring an agency that takes care of the refugees. And the situation keeps on going because it's bringing business. It's making your country move forward. This is being inhumane. This is inhumane. However you spin it, however you call it, if it's not happening in our countries, in the United States, if it's not happening in UK, if it's not happening in France, if it's not happening in Germany, in China, in Russia, just to name few, why is it okay that it's happening in any one of the countries you may so choose to call in Africa or outside of Africa? Actually, inside of Africa, not outside. because we're sort of like narrowing it right now to the Africans. We want to know if you can actually handle being truthful and help the people. Help alleviate the conditions causing these problems. And don't be ashamed. There's no, you don't have to be ashamed. No need to be ashamed of that. So much is happening, brothers and sisters, all over Africa. And until you take charge of your own lives, until you take charge of your own leadership, until you take charge of your interest primarily, none of these countries will look after your very best interest primarily. They are going to look after your interest, absolutely, but it will not be primary. They come first, you come second. You get the leftovers. Why should you get the leftovers? Have you ever seen the United States taking any leftovers? Have you seen the UK taking any leftovers? Have you seen France taking any leftovers? Have you seen Germany taking any leftovers? Have you seen China taking any leftovers? Have you seen Russia taking any leftovers? So why are you the one taking the leftovers? This we have to change, ladies and gentlemen. I am being told that some of you don't want us to talk about this, but we told you that we're speaking frankly. We're speaking boldly. We're speaking with no apologies. These are not hate speeches. This is just real talk, real life. I was going to say that it's surprising that every single one of these nations help tremendously. We're talking about billions of dollars in problems that they are also creating. How do we put a stop to creating a problem that is going to be fatal to our families, our communities, and our nations, so that we can actually work together as partners in whatever endeavors that you see, you're looking for? We can coexist together as nations without having to cause wars, deplorable conditions amongst ourselves, amongst our communities, amongst our people. We can make that happen. But it won't happen unless we, the primary stakeholders, take the steering drive. Until we take the leadership. Until we seek out first our own interests before yours. At any given time, you are at home in our homeland, taking away our resources. We won't be able to take care of ourselves. You will never see an African country just coming in the United States, coming in France, UK, Germany, China, just freely going in and taking and go out. It's impossible. Can we talk? It's impossible. Why is it okay for these countries to do that in Africa? And we want to put an end to that. And we truly hope that that is not going to be a problem. I will absolutely answer some of your questions, even all of them. We want to encourage you to actually come and speak in real time. Those of you who have questions, come. A lot of you are saying that you are offended that I'm asking you if you can trade your lifestyle now with a refugee or a stateless person. I'm reading this from Facebook. I'm actually serious asking this question. I'm literally serious when I'm asking you this. Can we talk for real? We speaking of these issues because we care about them, not because we seeking our trouble. We already in a lot of trouble as Africans. We are constantly being bombarded. If you're not being bombarded, you're being sold as a slave, be it a sexual slave or some sort of slave. If you're not that, you're fighting with hunger. If you're not that, you're fighting with COVID-19. If it's not that, you're fighting with some crooked government official. You're fighting with corruption. We have so much to fight with. The last thing we need is causing is just causing another war. Even though this kind of talk may seem to some of you as actually getting in your eye, getting in your face. But truthfully speaking, we're talking about our own lives. We're talking about our own communities. We're talking about our own families. The lives we're living every single day in Africa. Even outside of these countries. We want to change that. We know you're not going to come and change it, especially if you're not from Africa, if you have no idea the African lifestyle, the refugees problem, the stateless person problem. If this is the first time you hear of a refugee, you can imagine this thing has been happening. It's been existing for decades. And if we're speaking about it right now, it's because we're actually looking for partners with hearts to help us live a decent life. Why should you go to the United States? Why should you flee to the United States? Why should you flee to the United Kingdom? A little teeny country. And you're living in a huge country in your own hometown, in your own homeland, just because there is a fight. There are conditions of which will not permit you to be there. And the very country you're fleeing to is the very country instigating wars, instigating instability. How is it that we cannot put two and two together, truthfully and openly? If any of you can stand here and say, we absolutely have no doing, no hand in the conditions taken in Africa, any single one of these developed nations, if they can say that openly, we will just go offline, off the air completely. But because we know that all these governments, they have a hand in it one way or the other, that's why we're coming directly to you, the people. You who are actually voting in these legislators, these leaders of your various governments. We want you for once to know what's happening in other people's communities, in other people's nations, in other people's villages, in other people's families. Get to know what's happening the same way your family is secured in your own country. We want you to be able to allow someone else to have the opportunity to live like that. Now, I would also be frank to say that you have so many amazing families in these developed nations who are just sleepwalking. The legislators, those who are speaking on your behalf, are making the most inhuman deals that are causing the deplorable conditions in Africa. Most of you have no idea what your government signed, the deals they're making with African government, with African people, with African organizations. And these deals are being made on your behalf. So imagine if you have 10 million people dying, 12 million people dying in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And your country has a prime interest in every single natural resources coming out of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Would you, frankly, with you in good faith, say that you have nothing to do with it? When your tax dollars are at work in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, will you not find yourself an accomplice in the death or any of the deplorable conditions that those locals are living in today? Will you not find yourself culpable in the lives of these refugees or stateless persons who oftentimes actually are attempting to come in your country, and you're saying, hell no, we are full. We no longer want you people to come here. We cannot take care of ourselves, evidently, which is really the truth. So we cannot take you in as well. However, behind the scene, you're going behind and you're destabilizing their countries. I believe this is called hypocrisy. Let us not be hypocrite as the people. Let us not be hypocrite as nations. But that hypocrisy starts with me. It starts with you. And then it moves up to my family. And then it kicks back right up to my community, my village. And then it takes on the entire nation. If we're hypocrite as a nation, would you expect any better from any of the stakeholders that you say, hey, go look after my interest in this area? Some of you, they sleep happy, and you never want to know what your government is doing overseas. You never want to know what the army is doing overseas. You never want to know any of the clandestine operation taking place overseas, in particular in Africa. As long as you don't tell me, I'm good. We want to be able to say that that's not what we as human beings are here for on planet Earth. If you cannot see me doing it to you, why is it okay that you can do it to me, or you can do it to my brother, my sister, my cousin? Why is it okay that you can be able to do it, but it is not okay to do it to you? And that's all we are saying right now. So when we say that we are absolutely inspiring for each and every one of our brothers and sisters, African descendants, friends of Africa, we are advocating to all of you. We are encouraging all of you to take back the entire control, the dominion of the entire Africa, one country at a time, one village at a time, one family at a time, so that we can make these changes. We can change everything taking place like that. We really mean what we say, and we say what we mean. And we apologize to nobody about that. So will you come and help us out? That's the question. Now we're talking about refugees, and we're talking about stateless person. I told you that I once have been a refugee myself. My family have been refugee at some point in life. Rwanda still have refugee problem globally. Yet, the irony, Rwanda is taking money from the United Nations, from different countries, to take refugees inside of a country, when it has not solved its own refugee problem. Now, do you see that image where we're actually helping other countries, taking in other refugees, but we cannot do it for our own people? That hypocrisy, it's at home. We know angels. And now we're saying we have to change that in 2022. We need your help to change that in 2022. I want to move on to the 8th stateless person, to the 8th Rwandan stateless person currently living, they're living in Niger. Those of you who have heard the Rwandan genocide, the United Nations has set up a court in Arusha. And then the court, the mandate of the court, it was to pretty much get everybody who has been involved, or who's ever involved in the genocide, or they wanted to actually adjudicate the crimes against humanity committed in Rwanda from January 1st, 1994 to December 31st, 1994. Crimes committed both by the Front Patriotic, the Rwandan Front Patriotic, and also the Rwandan government, the then Rwandan government. So the Rwandan Patriotic Front is now the government of Rwanda. They were rebels from 1990, from October 1st, 1990 to July 19th, 1994, because they took the government on July 20. So they set up a new government in Rwanda on July 20. So from October 1st, 1994 to July 1994. No, from October 1st, 1990, my apologies, to July 19th, 1994. They were considered rebels who were fighting against the then government led by President Juvenal Habyarimana. Now the United Nations goes and say, hey, we want to actually bring you before the court, each and every one of you who have committed crimes against humanity. The time period we're going to look is from January 1st, 1994 to December 31st, 1994. First and foremost, I found that to be so ironic. From 1990, from October 1st, 1990 to now, crimes against humanity are continued to be committed every single day. From that particular time period, October 1st, 1990 to July 19th, or let's go all the way to December 31st, 1994, crimes against humanity have been committed. Now the question is, why specifically January 1st, 1994 to December 31st, 1994? And so, as I am actually saying that, the United Nations goes in and take in some people and take them to court in Arusha, a United Nations set up tribunal, the Arusha Tribunal. It was an international set up tribunal. And they rounded up, I think, anywhere between 70 or more people who were members of the then government of Rwanda. Only those members. And they sent him to the Arusha court, the International Tribunal in Arusha. Now, for 20-something years, the court works, but they did not finish the work. So some people were actually were literally taken before court, and they were given sentences. Others were acquitted, but it was cited. The rebels, not one single person from the rebel front was ever taken to Arusha. Thousands and thousands and thousands of Rwandans have died from the time period October 1st, 1990 to July 19, 1994. Killed by the rebel themselves, targeted by the rebel themselves, intentionally killed by the rebel themselves, by the United Nations, have just chose to look the other, to look away. How can you see a just court that actually neglects such an element that they so fully aware of? From the time frame of January 1st, 1994 to December 31st, 1994. The United Nations knew that the RPF, or the Rwandan Patriotic Front, was fighting with Rwanda, with the government of Rwanda. They knew that they were committing mass atrocities, mass murders. But not one single person, not one single soldier, not one single general has ever been taken in to answer their crimes. Today, you have generals, you have soldiers who publicly go on social media and they claim killing people. They claim not having killed all the people that they could have killed. We're talking about Rwandans. These powerful nations had spies in Africa, had spies in Rwanda, had spies in the Greater Lakes region. They knew the war was happening. They had a hand in it. They were providing weaponry, logistics, training. None of these countries has ever made it to the United Nations set up court to be tried for their crimes against humanity or their involvements in crimes against humanity. So again, Africans, I ask of you, is it fair that when two people are fighting, when crimes are being committed, you specifically look for just one side and you absolutely ignore the other side and take him to court and charge him and make sure that, be as it may, none of them has even the right to justice as we know it? I'm not generalizing. Just because people have been tried and sentenced doesn't mean that the full story is actually in the light, which is one of the things that you are going to discover about the history of Rwanda, about the history of the genocide that took place in Rwanda, about the perpetrators who have committed the genocide. That brings us back to these eight stateless person people. These are the people who were in Arusha. They were tried. Some of them were acquitted. Others were sentenced, and they were taken out of jail. But even after they were taken out of jail, they were not allowed to join their families or family members. I want to know if they can actually put a picture of those families, of those people, so you can have a chance to see it, because I really want you guys to see the image or that picture. These 8 people in particular, they are currently in Niger, and in Niger they basically are prisoners. Niger had a deal with the United Nations saying, hey, you know what, we will be happy to take in you people. We'll be happy to take in these Rwandese people. And they broke the agreement, or they broke the deal last year in November. On December 27th, the government of Niger had a shuffle, had changes in the leadership, that the foreign minister pulled out a communique where he was saying that, you know what, all these 8 people whom we have freely accepted in our country are, as of today, under arrest. We want them outside of our country. We do not want anything to do with them. If you guys can make that picture bigger so they can actually get to see it, because I really want to see it. This is a picture of some of those 8 people who are in Niger right now. I don't know if the Tikis can actually single out only the 8 people in question, or the 8 people that I really want to talk about right now. These have become stateless persons right now. They have families all over the world where their families are currently residing, but the governments where these families are living will not allow them to go there. They will not allow them to join their loved ones. They will not let that happen. And the question is right now, is it okay for the United Nations to broker a deal with Niger as a country? And then Niger doesn't honor the agreement that they have had. They were living in Arusha under the United Nations protection. And then they were tricked into going to Niger. And then Niger turns around and say, from today you have, they were given up to January 3rd to have been outside of the country. So they were given only 7 days to figure out what to do and get out of the country. Now the word on the street is that Rwanda went behind the curtains, did whatever they had to do with Niger government, and they said, we want those people to come here at home and answer for the crimes that they have committed. Minding you, they just came from a United Nations set up tribunal, some of whom have been acquitted, others they have finished their sentences. That the government of Rwanda want to go back, take them into Rwanda, and go ahead and charge them again. Double jeopardy. That's what in United States we call double jeopardy. But today, Rwanda goes even further. In Rwanda, they manufacture crimes against anyone who speaks ill of the government, who speaks ill of the policies within the country, who speaks ill against any so-called government officials. So, these people who were amongst the then government of Habyarimana, now that they were out, or they were taken out, now the government of Rwanda want to go ahead and take them back in Rwanda, recharge them with some new charges, and then just make sure that they die miserably. I also want you to know that these people, the youngest I believe is at least 60. We're talking about old people who have served and those who have been acquitted, but they have been living in Arusha like caged animals while they have families. I want to give you the names of those 8 individuals. The first one is Jerome Clement Bichamumaka. The second one is Prosper Mugiraneza. The third one is Tarsis Muvunyi. The fourth one is Anatole Sengiyumva. The fifth one is André Nagerura. The sixth one is Alphonse Nezidiayo. The seventh one is Francois Xavier Nzuonemeye. The eighth one is Innocent Sagahutu, or Innocent Sagahutu in French. And the ninth one is Singirankabo Prote, or Prote Singirankabo. Actually, it seems like it's 9 people, had given you 8 people. I believe one of them is extremely sick. So, ladies and gentlemen, especially you sons, daughters, and African descendants, in this country we live in, you cannot be charged of the same crime twice. It's called double jeopardy. Rwanda can charge you with the same crime as many times as it sees fit. And these developed nations are giving your tax dollars to Rwanda, helping them, claiming a success story in Rwanda. The thing that has never happened around the world. And I ask you, is it fair that your family member, be it your dad, your mom, your grandpa, your grandma, who could potentially be in these courts, who could potentially have become stateless, is it okay that they get to be sent back in Rwanda, recharged all over again for the same crimes that they were acquitted for, or for the same crime that they had finished their sentence. Is it okay that that happens? If that doesn't happen to you, a family member, a loved one, why would it be okay that it happens in Rwanda? Why would it be okay that your tax dollars are actually helping Rwanda to do that? This is what's happening right now. I really would appreciate it if the techies do find a picture of these 8 individuals, so that you can actually see them by themselves. Because what's happening right now in Rwanda, it's an amazing classic of the most amazing advertised, the most amazing facelift, the most amazing facade that humankind have yet manufactured, showing every single day. You know Rwanda, you see Rwanda, you've seen success stories inside of Rwanda. All under a very calculated sound bites. Absolutely amazing things have been taking place. But have you seen the whole story, the full story? Have you cared to know what that story is about? Would you be able to actually truthfully say that, hey, you know what, I have taken the time to find out about this, and this is what I have come up with. This is what I know of Rwanda. Today, what's happening in Rwanda, it's deplorable. Today, what the Rwandan government is doing against its people, against the refugees, against the stateless person, is deplorable. But Rwanda cannot do it by itself. It is being helped by all these nations that we live in today. That's what we call, they're sleeping in the same bed, they're discussing the same thing. As long as it's not in the best interest of Rwanda, or as long as it's not in the best interest of any of these countries, they look away. Until you get to speak up. So I ask you again, these 9 families, these 9 people, they have families all over the world, even in Rwanda. But they do not feel comfortable going back in Rwanda, especially those who have been acquitted for obvious reasons. If you lied against me, or if you make some charges against me, even to the point that I get to be charged by the International Tribunal, be as it may, would you see me going back to that same country fighting to take your life? Frankly speaking, I wouldn't see that happening if it was me. How do you treat an old man who's in his 80s as a genocide, or as an animal, a caged animal? How does a 60, 70, 80 individual become a threat to a nation? Think about it, guys. This is impunity at its very best. This is the kind of impunity that you will never see a lobbyist bringing into your desk. You legislators. This is the kind of impunity an advertiser will never bring to your desk, because that will make him not get any dollars from you. This is the kind of impunity taking place beyond what you never want to know that your government is doing with the rest of these governments. We want you to know what your dollars, what your euros are doing in Africa, in Rwanda. We want you to know the actions behind your dollars, behind your aid, and who is responsible, because sooner or later, those same conditions may actually come and knock on your door. How is it that we have stability for 246? Actually, it's not necessarily 246. At least for these 100 plus years, the United States has not had a war here on homeland, a physical war. What's the secret sauce behind not having wars on the homeland? But the United States is involved in warfare all over the planet. So is UK, so is Canada, so is France, so is Germany, so is China, so is Russia. But they make sure that no wars is coming to their own homelands. Is it fair? That's the question that I want you to answer me. So my apologies, we were not able to get the picture of those 8 individuals. They're telling me that the picture is not available at the time. But we will make it a point to actually find the picture and you get a chance to know more about them. We will post the more information about it. We will post the agreements that the government of Niger has had with the United Nations. There is even a video from the lawyer in Niger. But because we're running out of time, we will not be able to play the video. It's also in French. Those of you interested in this case, I actually would encourage you to seek out, to look out to the, seek out the families, get in touch with them, or get in touch with us, and then we will connect you to those families. But we want to say enough is enough. Enough is enough with these deplorable conditions. Enough is enough with us just being silent. Your families get killed. Your loved ones get killed. You get wrongfully accused and wrongfully sentenced. And you're supposed to just shut up and let it happen. We want to say no and want to say that enough is enough with that. So just like I was saying to all of you, the case of these 8 individuals sent us some feedbacks. Shoot us an email on info@afridominion.com or check us up on afridominion.com and get our contacts and we will connect you with them. It is inhumane for any single one of these countries all over the world to claim that they have justice, when you would not dare take in someone else, a stateless person, take in a refugee, take in someone that you've taken to court, wrongfully accused, acquitted or sentenced, and then when they finish their sentence, you say, by the way, we cannot allow you to be here. You're just an animal. We won't have you. You are just an animal. We do not want our community, our society to live with you. Yet, surprisingly, you are housing, you are giving shelter to his or her families or her family members. Hypocrisy at its best from all nations all over the world. And those are the same nations going back again behind the curtain, going back in our homeland, going back in various countries in Africa, destabilizes the country, plunder the resources of these countries, bring it back to their own homeland. Can we be decent people? Can we live together? Can we actually coexist without having to kill one another, without having to lie against one another? Young people, young Africans, sons, daughters, African descendants, even friends of Africa, we are saying no to this kind of living conditions. And we are saying that in this 2022, we have to take action, a bold action, the kind of action that you've never taken before. If you want something you've never had before, you are and you will have to do something you've never done before to get it. And we've taken the first step and we're saying, can you join us? Can you join us and make these changes? Can you join us and actually tell these governments, these leaders, these people who are actually selling us out, and tell them that, hey, enough is enough. No more. It is our desire, ladies and gentlemen, that we put an end to every deplorable condition with our brothers and sisters in Africa and outside of Africa. If we can do that as families, as communities, as nations, we will be in a position to actually help other nations globally to also take care of those same problems. The issues we're dealing with right now are not unique to just Africa. These are global issues. But because we want to make sure that we actually clean our own homes so that we can say, hey, we actually have done something. This is what we have done. That's why we are explicitly saying we are inspiring, we are advocating, we are encouraging a complete taking back, a complete dominion of Africa, one country at a time, by the sons, daughters, and African descendants, all in the interest of African people, primarily, and then the rest of the world afterwards. This is the reason why we're saying that. And this is the reason why we're bringing you this show. This is the reason why we have different themes, because we want to be able to tackle these issues. We want to be able to do it and have action plan, measurable action plan that you can say, hey, wow, after all, you can do something about it. And that's why we actually want you to be involved in it as well. Again, you can expect that we are going to speak boldly, truthfully, and with no apologies to no one. These are the issues that we care most about in our hearts. We are led by the spirit of truth, love, and trust. Everything we have discussed today here, feel free to give us some feedback, especially those things that you like the most. Even the things that you do not like or that you didn't find very helpful, I encourage you to please leave us a message and let us know, hey, you can actually improve in this area. We would love for you to come and join us. Join us in this very bold statement, in this bold action we've decided to take ourselves, and be a part of it. We are forever grateful, and we are so thankful in advance to all of you who actually are making this happen. It would be a remiss if I didn't say a huge thanks to HMG Network and affiliates for actually giving us airtime on televisions, on radio stations, and social media to make to actually bring out this conversation. All of you working behind the scenes, we are so grateful. We are super grateful for what you are doing. And I want to say thank you to kings and queens all over the world who are actually helping us out. We promise you we are going to make the right changes for each and every one of you as a people. We will speak for the voiceless on behalf of our families, our communities, and our nations with no apologies. We will absolutely champion for the interest of our people. This is not racism speaking. This is family talk. The same way the United States, the same way the Chinese, the same way the United Kingdom, the French, the Canadians, they all seek out the interests of their own nations primarily before they help the rest of the world. We also want to do the same thing and not feel like, hey, you're discriminating all of a sudden. And we want you to be okay with it. But we also want to say enough with these issues with refugees. If you are a refugee anywhere around the world and you are an African or African descendant, we want you to reach out to us. Reach out to us and let's figure out your situation. Let's figure out a permanent situation that you have. If you are a stateless person in Africa or outside of Africa, and you happen to be African or an African descendant, we want to hear from you. Reach us out at info@afridominion.com or go to our website www.afridominion.com and just get in touch with us. It's critical that we end this life, these deplorable conditions of our brothers and sisters all over the world. There's so much to say and so little time to discuss. I am saying I am super grateful to all of you who made this event coming to the light. Thank you so much for helping us out. And we're saying, come and hang out with us and come and support us. And come, let's make Africa great again on behalf of our own people, in the interest of our own people primarily. And then let's also work together and help the rest of the world. With that in mind, I am Freeman Singirankabo with Afri Dominion Show. Thank you so much. I wish you a super fantastic day. Those of you who are still daytime, good night for those of you who are going to bed. Good morning to all of you who are just starting your day. Until I see you tomorrow or until I see you again, may God be with you. Peace.